Hey everybody, this is SilverSpook, and this is the SilverSpook video about the SAG-AFTRA Video Game Strike. And in case you don't know, it's the people who work very hard to produce all the games you know and love, all the Grand Theft Autos, including number 6, apparently is coming out sometime soon. And the workers who are all struggling to put these games together while dealing with lack of their own basic needs being met, and also their security and their own safety for their future of their employment, which is a major sticking point, which is why this strike has been called. So I kind of want to just focus on mainly, like, obviously supporting my fellow people who work in video games. I am myself a game developer at SilverSpook Games. SilverSpook Games is not. I'm not a SAG-AFTRA member, obviously, and SilverSpook Games is a worker cooperative of myself and Holly, and basically it's a family business, basically what it is. But we also have some no full-time workers outside of myself in the games specifically. So I'm basically a one-person indie dev that does the music, art, programming, writing, animations, and basically everything with basically voice acting. So I guess when it comes to voice acting, I don't have any voice acting work. I don't have anybody working on voice acting right now, but so I do work in the games industry, but as a non-capitalist cooperative form. And so there are particular studios that are being struck, and you can find all the details on this if you want to learn more about this. I recommend anybody go and look up the SAG-AFTRA website. It is the SAG-AFTRA.org Video Game Strike page, and you can learn all about what's happening, why this is happening. As I said, one of the main reasons is because of problems around AI. So SAG-AFTRA members who work on video games on strike. AI protections remain sticking point. The members who perform in video games are going on strike against all video game companies signed to the Interactive Media Agreement, effective midnight. That was Friday. And so this is currently in effect. The vote to strike comes after more than a year and a half of negotiations without a deal. Although agreements have been reached on many issues important to SAG-AFTRA members, the employers refused to plainly affirm in clear and forcible language that they will protect all performers covered by this contract in their AI language. So I watched this entire I watched the entire video. This one here. This is a panel event, a video conference where they gave the SAG-AFTRA members gave their statements, and then there was questions from the reporters. It's about 40 minutes long. But it was definitely good to get an update on what exactly is happening when it comes to the game industry. But they bring up an important point, which is that, like, this goes beyond simply video games. This is a strike for everything, really. The future of work, the future of society, ultimately, and definitely entertainment. One of the speakers was talking about, this is a continuation of the ongoing struggle, the ongoing negotiations, the ongoing working out, right, of rules around AI, generative AI, right, that were fought over. That was a major point of the SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America strike last year, right? Remember last year Hollywood, Barbenheimer, if you recall, the Barbenheimer release of the Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie happened during the actors calling a strike, and many shows, many TV shows, many movies, much of entertainment was delayed, pushed back, because there was a multi-month writer and actor strike. And there's many problems, obviously. The very poor pay of residuals, if you recall, I talked about this last year. People like Dante Basco from Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? His residual check lottery, right? Or he of many of others, one of many actors who talked about how he was getting 27 cents for his payment for that 6-month period or whatever period for Avatar. It's just basically or some show, fairly well-known show. Kimiko Glenn, I think, made like less than $1 in residuals payments for all of her work she did on Orange Is the New Black. And there are many actors, and I don't know if you remember this, but people have short memories nowadays. And another problem caused by collapse, civilizational mutation due to Gen AI in part. Let me see if I can get that one. So this is part of the worker struggle. Yeah. So, I think Kimiko Glenn, for all of the episodes, for all the episodes that she was in 44 episodes of this TV show Orange Is the New Black, right? And her royalty statement was $27. So that's what she got for 5 years of her life's work. 5 years, $27. So that's how poorly many Hollywood actors are being paid. I mean, obviously that's one of the sticking points for the strike. Now this time, this strike is not centering around that. And it's centering more around AI, but there's always an ongoing struggle for all the game workers, and all of the voice and video actors and workers of all types, right? Because the last year's strike, it also wasn't just actors. This one, now it could expand beyond this, but right now it's they're focusing on the actors. But one of the sticking points last year was also AI, right? There were basically one of the offers, right? Writers Guild of America and the SAG-AFTRA 2023 strike. I'm trying to find like the actual details from that year. I probably should grab this all. So, one of the reasons why, right, that there was this huge Hollywood strike was that there were no protections. Basically, there were no protections when it came to AI. So, generative AI taking writers' content, right, scraping that data, putting it into a large language model and into a ChatGPT or some kind of some kind of algorithmic text chatbot that's going to spew out new scripts based upon your Avatar script, your Multiverse of Madness script that you wrote, whatever writing you've put in, right? And that was one of the problems, right? Was just that they basically wanted to permanently replace writers with bots, or replace as many writers as possible by stealing writers' content, right? There's a whole discussion of is it stealing if you add writing, image, and other human generated material, right, into a generative AI model? Is that stealing? Right? That's currently being discussed at length around the world, and that's part of the struggle in every dimension, economic, political, civilizational. I mean, each culture has different, and each person within each culture has different, and each society has different like perspectives on this that are all being hashed out. And what is the impact going to be of any particular rules? But that like one of the hard concrete battlegrounds was in that strike, and the writers, and then later the actors, right, all went on strike because they couldn't reach deals. I mean, the Hollywood. I mean, if you remember, right, it was like we had Disney, we had the CEO Bob Iger, like they were all making billions of dollars, right? Just what the writers and actors were asking for in that strike amounted to like less than 3% of the profits of 1 year of the AMPTP, the big studios revenue, right? It was basically nothing, right? So you have many layers of problems, right? So you have a whole unfettered, unchecked capitalism problem there. You have American style, profits before all else, total corporate rule, basically. That like pre-exists the AI stuff, and that was a problem, right? And then the lack of anybody getting residuals for all this work they're doing. Basically, actors being paid almost basically what amounts to almost nothing for many of these actors, with the exception of a few big name actors. But many of the others, basically, The Bear, the creator of the very popular TV show The Bear, was like living in his car, right? Couldn't afford to go to award shows. I mean, many people, right? Many actors, many people who worked in Hollywood, actors, writers, couldn't even afford the hotel or to buy shoes that would be nice enough. Anna Kendrick couldn't afford shoes nice enough to show up for accepting an award she won, right? And that's like she's a well-known actress. She was in Pitch Perfect. She was in Twilight. I mean, she's been in so many things, right? And still being paid so little, right? So we have the workers struggle over the share of the labor value they're producing, right, for these huge studios, for making these movies that everybody knows and loves, going to executives who make money because they have money, which is nonsense. Anyway, we could talk about whether that system makes sense at all, but for whatever reason, like even in the United States, it was just untenable. So they went on strike. But there is also the AI, which is another layer of that, all kind of enmeshed and entangled in, which is that actors were going to have their likenesses, right, taken. And I think the studios offered at one point the studios offered get somebody else on the screen. Who else was there? What's his name? Well, it was just search. At one point the studios offered actors $200, right? So the studio said, we will give you $200, and you actors, you can come in, and we will record your face, we'll record your body, we'll scan your 3-dimensional, we'll make a 3-dimensional like clay sculpture of you, like in a computer. I mean, for people who don't understand a lot of the technical jargon, that's basically what they want to do, is create a digital version of you, and we'll take your face, we'll take your voice patterns, your intonation, we'll record your performances, right? We'll give you $200 for that, and then you'll never work again. So it's basically it's like AI reproductions of you, and then we'll use that for whatever we want, right? And we'll give you $200 for that. Now, if you're Colin Farrell, that's what I was thinking. Colin Farrell. If you're Colin Farrell, right? Then they might give you like $1 million, right? I think they wanted Bruce Willis or Bruce Willis's family. They're talking about selling it. Bill Murray, all the older actors. They're like Mark Hamill, right? Mark Hamill was offered millions of dollars. Mark Hamill, we'll give you millions of dollars. Luke Skywalker, right? Famed actor who portrayed, and his likeness is synonymous with Star Wars protagonist Luke Skywalker, right? Mark Hamill, we'll give you $3 million to use your likeness, your appearance, your voice, your face, your body. There was a test of this in I think Mandalorian, Boba Fett. I can't remember which. A young Mark Hamill shows up. Young Luke Skywalker shows up in that, and that was there was a human actor, right? There was a human actor. There was a human actor who portrayed the motions in, I think it was Boba Fett. Was it Boba Fett? Yes. So in the TV show, the Disney TV show Boba Fett, a CGI, but it wasn't just CGI. It was a young, and also Blade Runner 2049 did something like this as well. They had a scan of Mark Hamill's, or pictures or of young Mark Hamill, were then overlaid over a younger actor's face, right? So the younger actor in 2020s, right, is walking around being filmed on a green screen or in a film set of some kind, and then they're taking young Mark Hamill's face and projecting that onto the actor's face. And so that's not that like that. What that did was that gives you a, like, everyone who's ever seen Star Wars, right? Everyone who has seen Star Wars will recognize the Luke Skywalker they saw in Episode 4, right? A New Hope. They'll recognize the Mark Hamill they saw in Empire Strikes Back and sorry, I'm just fixing my chat. Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, which is, that's nostalgic, I guess, for older people or people who have seen those original Star Wars. Oh, hey, it's Luke again, right? But that's I guess that's a positive. I mean, it makes the film, helps with continuity because it looks like the same Luke Skywalker as was acting in. It looks like the same Luke Skywalker in New Hope, right? It helps. It has a nostalgia factor. People come and watch the movie, and you can see that person that was, what looks like that. What looks like that Luke from that show. So I mean, because what I'm trying to get at is, what I'm trying to get at is, what are we doing? And I know I've talked about this before. Like, this is a very philosophical point, but I think it's important because it is about the future of what we in the future, what our children, our children's children, what the world, what the future humans in the world will be living in, and so it's like, so what are the benefits of doing that? So you get nostalgia factor, some continuity, right? Because as an example, if the Luke Skywalker that shows up in Book of Boba Fett looks, is a different actor, right? Like, I mean, just to give you another example, right? In the also very famous series, the X-Men movies, right? We have an old and a young. There's an old and there's a young Professor X, right? The old Professor X is played by Patrick Stewart, right? The young Professor X is played by James McAvoy in Days of Future Past, in X-Men. There's the first X-Men that came out in the early 2000s, right? And there's a series of them, and then sometimes there's Patrick Stewart who's playing the older present day Professor X. Sometimes it's in the far future Professor X, and that's a long story. But then sometimes there's James McAvoy when there's 1960s. I think that was Days of Future Past. Can't remember all the names. Holly remembers them more clearly. But there's a 1960s era, like Cuban Missile Crisis narrative that is in those X-Men movies, right? And James McAvoy is playing the young Professor X in the 60s and also in the 70s. And then you jump forward and it's Patrick Stewart, right? Now, of course, these X-Men movies, they came out before generative AI was really being used at that scale, right? Now, again, there's AI itself is a giant Byzantine, like Galactus-sized can of worms and nonsense, and it's a very confusing term. Sometimes I wish the term AI was never invented. I mean, and I say that as a science fiction writer, obviously, so that's a little bit self-defeating, or it's a little bit self-destructive, I suppose. But I mean, it's kind of so much is lumped into that term, right? So, but I'm kind of loosely using it, right? And I have like at least 15 hours of YouTube videos just talking about this AI topic, generative AI. But anyways, they didn't have the ability to project the face of Patrick Stewart, young Patrick Stewart, onto a actor, right? Just as an example, I mean, just as an example, if X-Men was made today, the Marvel Studios, the Disney, the big corporations, what is their incentive? Obviously, is to make as much money as possible, paying as little as possible. What they might do is they might take Professor X, right? Patrick Stewart's Professor X, right? And then they might take Patrick Stewart's Professor X, and another one as well, because we have Patrick Stewart that plays old Professor X. James McAvoy plays young. We have Sir Ian McKellen, who plays old Magneto, and then we have Michael Fassbender, right, who plays young Magneto. So there's at least two, or maybe there's others, old and young. There's at least two characters who have old and young old and young visages, old and young appearances in the movies, right? And so what would let's do a thought experiment. What would happen, right? What would happen if we took the X-Men movies, right? And I can't find a non-blurry one. I'm sorry. What if we took the X-Men movies and projected them into the future? And let's say like X-Men Days of Future Past was made in 2024 or 2022 or something like that, right? What would happen? What would happen? What would based on what we are seeing, right? Like what with the Star Wars, right? With the Mark Hamill's face being projected on young Mark Hamill's face being projected, his likeness, right? His AI, Mark Hamill's AI captured face, motions, voice, right? Being projected onto a young actor, right? Who we don't know who that actor is. The actor is not known now, right? So if X-Men Days of Future Past was made in the 2020s, you might still have Magneto, levitating, Golden Gate bridges and throwing them at Storm and Cyclops, right? And you have Wolverine climbing, walls. You have Professor X doing his Cerebro and contacting all of the seeking out all of the mutants across the planet and having his school for gifted students and etc. Right? But then when it goes to the past, in the present, when it goes to the past scenes, you might have Patrick Stewart's face, right? When it comes to the 1960s X-Men, right? Young Magneto, who is in meeting Mystique and trying to build the X-Men, young Magneto young Professor X, Charles Xavier, would just be a Patrick Stewart projected onto a it could have been James McAvoy, but it's some young actor's face, right? And it'll just be young Patrick Stewart over some other body motion actor, right? Somebody is doing the walking and the standing and all that kind of thing, right? But then it's Patrick Stewart's face projected on top of that, right? When young Professor X, and when Magneto, right? Michael Fassbender, right? Like Michael Fassbender's Magneto is very. There's a lot of acting that's being done. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a scene where he's, he has lots of intense acting scenes. Like he's crying a lot. Like he loses his family. He comes from a literal concentration camp, right? in World War II. He was he's gone through a lot of serious, intense experiences over the course of his life, and he's struggling between his hatred and his resentment, legitimate, right, rage against the people who slaughtered his family's parents, right, and it's played by Kevin Bacon. Can't remember his name. He controls like nuclear submarines in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Michael Fassbender. So Michael Fassbender has to do a lot of real serious acting. Is what I'm trying to get at, right? He has facial acting. He has body acting. He's doing a lot of acting, right? He probably does some of the most in all of the X-Men, to be real, right? All the X-Men series of the noughties and the early teens, right? And okay, now, but let's say that we project this into 2024, right? What if X-Men were made now? What would the studio do? They would take Sir Ian McKellen is also a great actor, right? No doubt. He's a great actor. He did a good job as the Magneto, and he's done many, many, many films other than that, right? But Sir Ian McKellen, who is in his 80s, right? If X-Men Days of Future Past and the X-Men movies were made now, they would take Sir Ian McKellen's face, and then they would project young. They could de-age him. There's software that does that, right? It's part of what Facebook. Whenever you put your picture on the internet, it's basically and you don't give your consent, or they just don't care about your consent. They're scraping all your Facebook, all of your Twitter, all the images. Quick PSA as I'm thinking about this. There is a thing called Grok, which is the Twitter auto. The Twitter generative AI. Twitter has automatically opted you in to their generative AI data scraping. So all your text, all your video, all your pictures that you post to Twitter, and every platform has this. Instagram has the same thing. Mark Zuckerberg is doing this. All your text, all your pictures, all your video is without your knowing consent. You are automatically being opted into having your data taken and consumed like any of these actors or writers, right? And given to Elon Musk's AI or Twitter's multi-billion-dollar corporation data pile to do whatever they want with it. So you have to opt out of that. So I recommend you go to accounts and there's a whole look up how to if you're on Twitter, look up how to opt out of Grok and generative AI because we don't. Generative AI is kind of like, BSL level 3 pathogens, like COVID, which is, by the way, Joe Biden just was knocked out of the race by. We don't know what the long-term impacts of the novel virus that came out, hit the world in 2019, 2020. We don't know what the long-term impacts are. We're starting to learn some of them, and they're very, 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 very bad. We don't know what the long-term impacts are of generative AI yet, right? So that's just a little. So let me get back. I'm doing such a good job. I'm being a good little doggy, a good boy. I don't know why I just call myself a dog, but I'm like sometimes I'm a golden retriever all over the place. But I'm trying to stay on my point. Anyway, so Michael Fassbender. My point is that Michael Fassbender did a lot of serious, intense acting. James McAvoy did a lot. He did a lot of good acting as well. Like James McAvoy plays like 20 plus characters in a movie called Split. I mean that is serious work. That takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of training. You gotta research. You gotta hone your art to make really convincing performances. It's not just standing in front of a camera and then making a face. I mean, I don't pretend like I'm like the best actor ever. I know there's I do my best in Neofeud voice acting, but I know like there's much people that are much better than that. They spend years of their life, years and years and years of their life, every day, hours a day, practicing and training in the skill. We're watching the Olympics, right? To be a great Olympic shot put athlete, to be run the 100-meter dash in that record time, it takes years of hours a day, every day, working at that, and this is a part of the civilizational struggle, which is like what do we owe humans, people who have put countless hours of effort of their life as workers, I mean, and these are creative workers, but they're still work nonetheless, right? What do we owe even to athletes, right, who try not to get COVID because that will destroy 20 years of your life's work to put your body in that top physical form, right? Actors similarly, right, have put it, their body is their tool, right? Their body, like if you're a Fortune 500 company CEO, you have no discernible skill and those tools, right? Because all you do is sit around and run your mouth and say things like, AI is an existential threat, and AI is also going to save the world. And if you don't give us more investment capital, we'll lose to China. And then people print money and then give you money for free for being a billionaire. That's basically how. There's no discernible work that is going into Elon Musk's job of being a CEO of a major corporation that gets free money from the central bank to basically waste it, getting mad at trans people, and talking to Jordan Peterson and being ridiculous. So, but for actual workers, other than those people, right? The CEO of Disney, CEO of Activision, that I guess their job is to underpay workers and try to be as sleazy as possible, right? And be as greedy and horrible as possible and wreck the world. I guess that's their job. I don't know if that's a skill. It's a net negative. They produce a net negative good to the world, I would argue. But for people that actually do work in the world, like actors have to do work. Just as an example, if these people didn't do the work, would if the actors didn't put this time in, right? Would you still want to watch X-Men, right? If all the animators stop animating, the CG or the animation in the Spider-Man at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movie, right? Would you still want to watch it? What if they did a really poor job, right? Does that would decrease your enjoyment of films? And do you want to watch films? Everybody wants to watch films. Everybody want to watch TV shows. Most people spend most of their life playing video games, watching TV shows and movies nowadays. I mean, that's just reality. I'm sorry. That is, it's for people who aren't like undergoing serious forced underdevelopment and imperial plunder, they have other things to be doing. But outside of that, a lot of people spend a lot of time. So it is a definite, producing art and the programming, the writing, the acting, the voice acting, the voice acting, the direction, the script writing, all that stuff it takes time, it takes effort, it takes human time and effort and work, right? And trying to get something on screen it takes time and it takes effort and it takes work, and it is valuable, because if you imagine a world where they stop doing that, the world gets a lot duller, the world gets a lot more boring. We don't get to feel our feelings and go through these experiences that we pay money for these things, right? And we want these things. We enjoy these things, right? Art makes life better, right? In the same way that like having food is a necessity and it makes life better to have good food, right? So people who farm, people who cook food, hamburgers or noodles or whatever you happen to be cooking, right? We need food. So the work that those people are doing to produce that food, to prepare that food, to deliver that food is all vital, valuable work. Now, obviously a CEO, executive at a company, upper management, what are these people doing? If you remove all executive CEOs from the world, if workers own production, like cooperatize all video game companies and film companies, like Silver Spoon Games, and Huawei, by the way, is another one. Mondragon is another one. If we remove executives and bankers, finance, insurance, and real estate people, the world actually gets better, right? You know this. That's the BS jobs, the bullshit jobs that David Graeber talks about. He's like, if this job, it is that, because if it was removed from the world doesn't necessarily change for the better or worse, or it gets better. And so, most jobs in the wealthy Western countries, like the United States and places like that, are those kind of parasitical jobs. Now, not all jobs in an office are parasitical, non-productive jobs. Some of them are necessary, right? The paradox is the people who have the most unproductive jobs, the most net destructive jobs, right? The owners of the capital, the people that, the bosses that manage the workers below, they get paid the most, but they actually produce the least in terms of what benefits to society, right? Now, like, obviously, companies need direction, right? Studios need direction, right? And but coordinating your game workers, coordinating, your actors and writers. This is not something that you don't need a Harvard, you don't Harvard business degree. Like the quote unquote skill of business, it has nothing to do with being productive. It has everything to do with trying to control workers. That's what it ultimately is about, and to squeeze as much of the value of your actual productive people to give to a tiny minority of unjust people who are in their high positions because they have large wealth and they have powerful networks behind them, right? It's obviously a fundamentally unjust society that stems from, feudal era, etc. I don't want to go too far off in the details, but long story short, so the actors my point is that the actors, right, like all these people, are producing value that everybody benefits from. I mean, everybody who watches films and watches movies and shows and entertainment, which is basically everybody, right? Basically everybody. I mean, it's how many people do you know? Hey, what's your favorite movie? Oh, I don't watch movies. How many people do you know? Oh, what's your favorite? Maybe some people don't play games, older people, and that's But I mean, everybody watches some kind of entertainment of some kind. Everybody listens to music, even, right? And there's AI that they want to use for that too. So so back to this. So if they did the Mark Hamill technique in Boba Fett of projecting Mark Hamill's younger generative AI process visage onto this new actor, right? And they did that to the X-Men, right? Well, what happened would be that all the work that James McAvoy and that Michael Fassbender, right? Holly and I, we just recently watched Prometheus and A Covenant. We did. He played at least two characters with two different accents. That Walter and David, the creepy android, and the developer of some of the most horrific creatures ever seen on screen. And anyway, so Michael Fassbender, he was in several movies other than this. Right? Obviously, he was in many more X-Men, and then he was in he was in the Alien, the later Alien series, and many other. Taika Waititi directed a movie about someone's playing soccer, and Michael Fassbender is, I think, a British former soccer coach who ends up coaching someone's soccer team, and that's just one of many things he's been in. But if they had all the work that Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy had done in X-Men would have been negated, right? Or maybe they wouldn't have acted at all. It would have just been some stand-in, right? Well then what does that do? Well, then what that does is that takes the possible future career, right, of a new actor. Because again, you're not going to have Patrick Stewart forever. You're not going to have Ian McKellen forever. I mean, they are humans, right? Like in Prometheus or in Alien Covenant, David says, "You created me, right, Father?" Right. I'm gonna put this on just because I was thinking about this, and it is somewhat relevant. And it has what's his name? Not Pierce Brosnan, the other guy. Guy Pearce. Yeah. There's a scene where I mean, just to have more actors on screen. Because he wouldn't, Michael Fassbender would never have been in this if AI were in existence in the 2000s. Michael Fassbender's career would never have existed. I'm going to argue. And in this scene, like Guy Pearce, who is multi-trillion-dollar corporate owner of Wayland Industries, creates an android version an android that is acting as his son, right? Or he calls him his son, right? And he says, David, you're my son and you're perfect. And David says, you created me, Father, but one day you will die and I will outlive you. And then his dad gets and then the multi-trillion-dollar corporate owner gets upset. It's unclear that he actually created him, right? He probably had his team design him and to whatever his specific. If it was like Elon Musk, he probably ordered a team of actual skilled people to design his android son how he wanted. But he says, David, come here, bring me the tea. And Waylon is sitting in his chair and he tells the android to walk across the entire room and bring me the tea. Just to kind of say, like, you're my son. But also, if you don't do exactly what I say, I disown you. And you are ultimately just a slave to me. You are an android. You are a thing. And so I will use you as I see fit. Bring me my tea like a servant, like a slave, right? Like a house staff of a feudal palace, right? Which is Neofeudal, which is what Neofeud is about. Shout out for my video game. Anyways, so it's like that's a lot of acting that also went into that scene to make that an impactful scene. And there's a lot of work that went into designing the set, designing the background, designing the choosing the location that you're gonna have outside. Like all of this is work. It's thought. I mean, really, Scott does some of that. Set designers do a lot of work. Prop designers, costume designers. It's all work. It's like a lot of work. It's like hundreds of thousands of human hours of work to do all this stuff, right? Which is why people are striking, because they're going, if you want to keep having this entertainment workers, game and film and otherwise are striking. If you want to keep having this stuff, we need to be able to live, and we need our needs being met, house and food and healthcare, so that we can keep doing this work, which it is. Now, of course, on the corporate side and the pro-generative AI side, they say, well, this is not work. This is just, this is just a bunch of, it's just a bunch of data. That's literally what they said to the game workers. It's just data, and anyone can make data. Data's easy. We don't need you anymore. We're just going to generate data, and some people believe that. Well, we don't need actors, writers, creative people, producers of anything. And what's the point of that? We can AI generate the next Marvel movie. We can AI generate the next Alien movie. We can AI generate the next Star Wars, the next Disney, the next great Academy Award winning, released in January serious movie. We can make the next great art with AI. We don't need you anymore. I mean, this is a serious point argued by Sam Altman, OpenAI, big AI companies, right? It will make them tons of money to never pay a worker ever again. And if they can get away with selling people movies that they call it like just good enough, it's not very good, but it's maybe passable. The game industry were using generative AI to make the skins, right? They're AI generated skins in Modern Warfare 3, Fortnite, right? And so these big companies, right? Fortnite, right? We're talking about like Overwatch size games. You got Modern Warfare. These are like some of the biggest games. Games industry is bigger than the film industry too. It dwarfs even the film industry, the game industry, in terms of total revenue, right? The size of it in billions of dollars, right? And so they were generating. One of the things that has been happening is that they were generating new skins, which is one of the things that's done in game companies. They're generating new skins and content using generative AI and not paying artists to actually make new characters, new models. So you have like you have like a Fortnite skin that's this particular dude with his tattoos, and you have like this blonde girl with the with her style, and then they'll make like another one that's like a red hair character with like different colors, a different style of clothing. This is like a yokai Modern Warfare 3 skin. And so one job that a lot of artists have is to just like create new content for people to keep people interested in playing that game, right? But the companies, and the companies said that we will use generative AI only for like internal use, like non-production, delivered products, right? In order, they basically lied to game workers about this, and then later on they said, oh, actually, this year we had record layoffs, right? The video game layoffs in 2024 exceed everything prior any year prior to that. There were 10,800 jobs lost from January to June, and it's accelerating. It's accelerating. So we have more and more and more game layoffs. Now, some people will say this is a cyclic problem because there was a lot of hiring in the 2020, 2021 during the start of the Panini era, when everyone was playing more games in lockdown, right? And Amazon ordering all their food and blah blah blah. That's, partially true. On the other hand, not, because they're still making tons and tons of money. People are like, the gaming amount of game playing is not really significantly decreased that much, and there's clear evidence that they are getting rid of people and replacing them with or they're using generative AI in the place of many of the workers in the game industry, right? And they're lying to the game workers about and their unions about how and when they're doing these things, right? And so another thing is that when we talk about the struggle for the future of art and civilization as a whole, and it's also class struggle, obviously, right? So it's economic, it's political, it's cultural, it's everything. The obfuscating and confusing people as much as possible, right? Causing as much chaos. It's kind of like blowing up entire countries and then trying to steal all the resources, right? Causing as much chaos and confusion and lying to everybody about what exactly is happening. Keeping the entire world and all the people in a country, and even in your home country, right, as confused as possible is the optimum state of things for the parasitic, non-productive class, also known as the capitalist class: CEOs, executives, investors, millionaire, billionaire type people, right, who want to make money for having money, having the pre-existing non-earned condition of inheriting millions and billions of dollars from your father and your golfing network, and your Skull and Bones community and your WASP friends that are all central bankers and high-level bankers. That another fun fact: like 80% of all the U.S. corporations and everything is controlled by 3 shadow banks. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and each of them are all co-invested in each other. So it's the highest level of wealth concentration and power through wealth concentration ever. And so all those people are all in the same network. And the people they're all, those banks are all made up, and those corporations are made up of their controllers, their rulers are all individuals from wealthy families, particularly descended from a part of the world called Europe. And so those people, their number one interest when it comes to AI and what people think about AI, what the planet's populations think about AI, is to keep people as confused as possible, right? To not know what's going on, right? Whether those are the game workers who are being told, oh no, we're never going to use generative AI for anything significant, and then suddenly they are. Whether that's, oh, AI is an existential threat. It's like, iRobot. It's like the worst from the Matrix and Terminator. I mean, this is all my bread and butter. It's like Skynet, But if you give me, Sam Altman, and Elon Musk and billionaires like us all the money and all the power, we'll solve the problem with our genius brains, right? Because we're just so smart. This is one of the narratives and the unexamined axioms of Western capitalist system is that people who have billions of dollars earn that money through the extreme massive genius, like 5,000 IQ, right, in Elon's brain, right? That was the point of Iron Man, right? Iron Man designed his way out of, with his genius ingenuity, designed his way out of a cave somewhere in a war zone that he created with the military industrial complex, right? And he designed from like tin cans and his belly button lint and random teacup bits and a broken 1990s computer circuit, the Iron Man suit, right? Just, oh my gosh, what a genius. How smart is that guy? He could solve any riddle, crack, like you could Iron Man could probably do like a million times a million digit multiplication in his head. It's how smart he is, right? And Elon Musk like was shaking Iron Man's hand in the Avengers movies, saying, "Hey, yeah, you're also you Elon Musk, the real person in real life that just happens to be the number one poster boy for the system, are as smart as me," because Iron Man is thanking him, right? And so that is actually, the movies themselves are reflecting the desires of the producers of those movies that are also manufacturing these scripts, which is that the people that own AI companies, the people that own all these huge capitalist companies, are what produces, right? Lloyd Blankfein, CEO of Goldman Sachs, one of the largest mega banksters in the world, said that we are doing God's work as the job creators, right? Salvation from on high. It reflects, divine mandate, and the Christian European colonial orders, anthem or prayer, are on earth as it is in heaven. The king on earth as the king in heaven is God, right? So so modern wealthy executives that control these companies are what produces the value. And so in order to solve that problem, we have to give them all of the resources. So really hard problems like generative AI, or AI that could dislocate 90% of all workers and cause mass collapse, societal collapse, right? By the way, I made games about that 15 years ago called Terminus Machina, where AI forces, another quick ad for my, not, you don't even have to pay for this game, because it's a mod of Deus Ex. AI forces nurses, doctors, robots, AI and robots force doctors, nurses, creatives, and lawyers, and everyone else onto the street with no safety nets. Bread lines run out of bread, and AI-powered robot cops, robot military, and mechs, and fleets of autonomous drones strike and blow out of existence all the world-class war uprising, as 95% of the whole human species becomes permanently unemployed. And so you want to see how that works out. And then a homeless socialist activist jailbreaking iPhone 9 factory worker slaves in North San Francisco has to live in a cardboard box and eat radioactive moss while trying to change things. Anyway, that's Terminus Machina. That, I like I said, I made this game like a long time ago. Nobody was thinking about these problems, when I was working on this game. Like very, very, very few people were thinking about these problems, because these problems are not very fun to think about. But now you have to think about them, because this is where we're at. We are in the future, I predicted, as we always are. When a Silver Spook says something, it comes true at least 5 days or 5 years later. It's inevitable though, because I am actually a 1,000-year-old alien from 3975, and I can tell you, if you want to have any oceans, then you have to do exactly what I say, as I say. I'm just kidding. Anyways, back to the video game strike though. So to keep, because I'm trying to make these points around the AI, which is the sticking point, to keep people as confused as possible is the goal of the capitalist class and the wealthy that own the shares in all these huge companies. The Nvidia shares that is making all of these chips, trying to make money, not doing anything but owning shares in the Nvidia company and Disney company and Netflix the company, right, and etc. So my job and our job as not oxygen thieves, not wastes of space and time, and as non-parasites, right? As non-parasitic people, our job is to try to educate everybody into the realities of what is happening and what the future is for this, to get people as clear-eyed and in the leftist term, AI conscious as possible. And I am also by profession a programmer myself, obviously, so I know something about AI as well. I work on AI myself. I worked on AI for a whole variety of different systems, not generative AI. That's why I hate that term now, because it's like, When I say AI, I think of I think of the enemies in Doom, like the programming that causes demons and possessed soldiers to shamble or to leap and to slash at your Doom guy, in the video game Doom. I think that's when I think of AI, that's what I think of, right? And AI, but it encompasses so much. Autopiloting on aircraft and vehicles is technically AI of a kind, right? Expert systems is AI. Eliza, the decades old chatbot, is AI, right? What is AI? It's there's a very good Jaron Lanier book. I cannot remember the name of it. You Are Not a Gadget. There's several very good ones that talk specifically about this problem, which is that like people will the problem with AI is people will dumb themselves down, or you can't tell whether the machine is getting smarter or you're dumbing yourself down in order to make the machine appear smarter because you want to live in some kind of science fiction future. So science fiction itself is part of the creation of the grist for the mill of this AI confusion problem, right? Because science fiction is fiction. It's not real. It's made up, and what kind of stories, all the Terminator, all the Terminator, all the iRobot, all the Battlestar Galactica Cylons, all the C-3PO even, and R2-D2 in your Star Wars. I mean, there's robots in like so much, in like everything, right? There are non-human robotic thinking, feeling machines. I obviously there also are these in my games in Neofeud. That's one of the main tenets of that. But that is fiction. That's not reality. Number one, and number two, believing that ChatGPT is like a C-3PO but like massively distributed or something. When people talk about the hallucinations of generative AI, right, and these kind of things, the natural tendency to personify objects, whether they are actually persons or not, right, is it's a natural thing to do for many evolutionary reasons. It's better to assume there is a conscious tiger in the woods rather than just a pattern of leaves, because if you assume otherwise and you don't run, you could be dead, right? I mean, that's just one of many reasons why hominids assume, and humans as one of them, like assume agency in patterns in nature and in the external world, right? To build build condensed imperfect models of the reality we exist in order to move and successfully live in it, right? Anyway, this is like very philosophical. This is like a little more philosophical than I wanted it to get, but that's okay. So my point is that like people, what AI actually is still not very, it's not really even fully understood by the people who design it, right? What exactly now, this is one example, right? When you give AI art, right? Where's that one? Model decay. When you give generative AI art, right, it actually starts to quickly I'm trying to find the AI models, right? If you give AI a bunch of dogs and you say this is a dog, every time you do CAPTCHA, every time you do like put captions on things, you're giving somebody's generative AI picture plus information, right? And the models over time will tend to decay, meaning like the images the images that you are trying to get a good picture of this. It's not really American. The images that the AI is being trained on, right? And it needs like millions of these, right? They represent actual reality. The AI discerns like what are the most salient characteristics of that reality, like a dog or a cat. But if the AI then generates dogs, right? They're all gonna. If you have, let's say you have I can't find the image of this. There's a golden retriever, a Labrador, a Chihuahua, right? A Shih Tzu, a great a hound, right? When the AI takes all of those images of dog in, right, it will kind of average those out into something that kind of looks like all of those things, right? Or it kind of it might just randomly look kind of like more like a Labrador or a golden retriever for some reason, right? And the people that designed the AI actually don't know how. It's not the same as the human mind, because that's not how humans actually produce understandings of dog. It's not by blasting millions of dogs, right? You don't sit in front of a child, right, and show dog. Like, you don't show 50 million dogs to a kid to teach a kid what a dog is, right? They interact with a dog, they see a few pictures of dogs, right? And they, and then they over the life they see different dogs, and you describe these differently. You don't. So the way that what is happening in the quote unquote mind, or what is happening in the system of a generative AI, ChatGPT, Sora, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, all these different generative AI models, it is not. It has some similarities to the neural architecture of a human brain. It has like neuron like synapse like things. It has like it has weights in a advanced adversarial network, or there's different structures, but there is a constellation of all of these different nodes, and like there are different there are weights that happen as inputs come in, and inputs and outputs are pushed out between each of the individual nodes in the chip. I mean, I'm simplifying a lot. There are some surface similarities, but the way that AI is actually quote unquote think is very different actually from how human brains think. Because if you think about it, right, you don't scan billions of books to learn how to read, right? You don't scan like that, but that's how they train. That's how they train the Google ChatGPT, right? You don't go on the internet and look at. You don't go on the internet and look at a million pictures of hot dogs to learn what a hot dog is, right? And then if you go to draw a hot dog, you draw it all weird and blobby. To learn how to draw a human, right? No human child is gonna draw 7 fingers on their mom and dad, right? And then go. I mean, if they did, it was because, haha, hey mom, look, like we're aliens now, right? But in AI doesn't do that, because it's not thinking like a human. It's doing pattern recognition. It's doing pattern recognition. It's doing mimicry. It's trying to imitate human speech in the images that it is taking in. And the video also, it's just trying to mimic what like, the ChatGPT is it's just spicy Google autocomplete. It's like what your phone does, right? It's the next word guesser. Like, okay, the most common word that comes after this word, right? If you put in taco, the next most common word in this area is bell, right? That's not how humans don't guess, right? When you go to make a sentence, like if you're gonna say like I like X-Men, right? You don't say I. Okay, what's the next most common word that humans say? Like, okay, now what's the next most common word that humans say? Joe Biden. Like, I'm just kidding. Nobody likes him. You don't ask yourself, what is the next most common word that billions of people say when you think of the sentences you're going to make. That's the way that ChatGPT writes, right? This is why it doesn't write very good Hollywood scripts. They tried. It doesn't work very good, right? You don't say, okay, what's the next expression I need to make as the Hollywood movies, right? When they have like these AI generated Hollywood movies, and they're going, AI can really act, right? But when the AI generated these movies, the acting is super, like, what is it? What is even? I mean, the AI generated Secret Invasion intro last year was catastrophic, in the sense of like, what are we really saying with that? This no intention. I mean, I remember like the Fallout, some of the creators of the Fallout TV show were like, I see what you're doing there, but what is the point of this? I mean, that's neat that you can make Samuel L. Jackson's face all bloobly bloobly and melty weirdness, right? But what are we trying to get across here? Like, I mean, like what like when you anyway, just as an example, right? When in the Matrix intro, I mean, just another I'm just taking lots of different movies and slapping them together. In the Matrix intro, the Wachowskis chose to put text, this kanji or binary 0 and 1, green rain on screen, because it has a deeper meaning within the context of Matrix the film. It signifies the computer world that you're going to be entering into. The green signal is selected as the color because that is the color of monitors, older computer monitors. And when you go into your DOS, when you go into your programming prompt, it's often bright text on black background, right? And so that's the intentionality that I forget who was one of the Fallout TV show designers, like what is the intention, what are we trying to, what is the perspective, what is the point of what is happening in the Secret Invasion AI generated intro, right? And the thing is that has even been touched up by real human artists, right? And still it's like, I mean, it's like Samuel L. Jackson has a weird blue billy eye, but so that's what I'm saying is like one thing that humans bring that the AI is not doing, that this generative AI is not doing, is it doesn't have any intentionality. It doesn't have like a point that it was trying to make. It doesn't have a perspective it was trying to get across, right? And each director has a different perspective, because some people will be like, well, I'm going to make the Matrix, but I don't want to have any computer tech. I don't want any green, because I don't find that as significant in my experience of, I don't know, systems of control or whatever. So there is a particular Wachowski, like arguably alter like point of view that they're trying to get across as directors. And obviously, Hugo Weaving, Keanu Reeves, each putting in their own performances, also physical performances, right, in the Matrix. This is one of the fights. I mean, to bring it back to the present, the fight over physical performance, right? Just to come back to this video game strike, one of the things that they're talking about is that, like, breaking the performances out into the way that they're negotiating is that the performers who are physical, so meaning like when you're moving, right, capturing your motions, like some actors, they just stand, right, and they're like doing idle conversations, they're moving, they're gesturing while they're waving a gun around when you're having an intense interaction with a mob boss or something, right? You're talking to, what's that character that we always see it's always on Instagram, Harlock from I forget which popular fantasy game, has to, like, jump around and do dance, or if you're in an action scene, like, the choreography for, Acolyte, coming back to action, right? When they did the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like Acolyte lightsaber choreography, right? Trying to get a picture of that, which some people were mad about, but whatever, they had to have people, right, practicing for hours and hours and hours, right, dozens, hundreds of hours sometimes, all of these action scenes to film the lightsaber fights that you want to watch, right? And all of that is work, right? Now, and games need people that are doing that work too, right? To choreograph things, to be motion actors. Somebody in this SAG-AFTRA was saying, like, one day I'm a zombie, the next day I'm a soldier. Sometimes I'm a zombie soldier, but I am a motion actor, so I move in front of these balls that are glued to my body, or they have different ways of capturing this, and the game company is the engineers are capturing video of my body moving, and they're going to use those motions to attach those to a 3D game character. It might be a demon, it might be a zombie, right? And so the game companies like EA, Activision, all these big game companies, Disney is one of them that's being struck. They are saying that the motion actor and the actors who are being captured for their motion don't count as acting. That's not, you are not a SAG-AFTRA actor. You're just data, right? You're giving your data, right? So this is the thing where these definitions of what counts as what is, it's being haggled over, and is being hashed out at the in the negotiating rooms between the company owners and the actors and the creative workers, right? But that this is going to be very important going forward. They bring this up, like decisions that are made each one of these fights into one of these struggles, these negotiations between the workers and the parasitic class and the executives, who want to take as much as they can and give you as little as possible, all right, and say everything humans do is irrelevant and your work is as valueless as possible. I mean, outside of creative and outside of AI, they always want to say that, right? Your unskilled labor, workers who work, people who pick coffee and pick tomatoes, the value is there. It's such easy work that they should be paid 50 cents an hour, right? Which is what they pay their illegal immigrants in coke farms and all Western agriculture and essential services, truck drivers, janitors and in-home care nurses. That work is so cheap. I mean, the goal always of the capital owner class, the feudal lord class, the slave master class, the oligarch class, the imperial class, is to denigrate in the minds of everyone the contributions of the contributing working class, right? Is to make it seem as little as possible and to subhumanize it if they can. Well, whatever way they can do that. Oh, these people are not legal. These people are not, they're not our people. They're from some other country. It's cheaper because it comes from that country, and it's bad quality, and that's why we don't have to pay as much for it, even though we use it all the time and eat it all the time, or we love to benefit from that. But so the workers have to constantly fight back against that and say, no, what we're doing is valuable, and in fact, what we're doing is so valuable that how about if we don't give you any more of our work and see how you deal with that, right? Because again, it's like if Elon Musk and the CEO of Disney and Sam Altman, if they're so genius, why don't they just produce, like Disney, Bob Iger, CEOs, just make the next Star Wars that everybody wants to watch, right? If generative AI is so good, just make the next Star Wars then. Just do it. But the reality is, the studios gave in last year, and the game studios are going to give in this year. Why? Because generative AI, right, isn't as far. It's many huge problems with it when it's used in the wrong way, which it usually is. One statistic I actually read is that actually China is actually leading in AI now. It's not even in the United States. They're leading in the AI industries. But this encompasses AI and generative AI, right? And the capitalist business people, the people just want to make money, right? The money grubbing people want to say that generative AI is where all the future it is, but actually, if you look closely, what's happening outside of the West is that they're going. Number one, there's stricter rules. In China, they have stricter regulations on how and when you can use different AI, because they're taking it a bit more seriously, and sometimes a lot more seriously, which is a good idea, right? And number two is actually that generative AI, so ChatGPT, that only accounts for about 6% of the total. I can't remember where that number came from. I was listening to a conference, but a lot of the bedazzle. Oh wow, look at this robot. Oh, look at this ChatGPT. Look at this AI art, right? Look at my new Crab Jesus 2.0, cozy crab and coo Facebook sludge, right? Look at this Star Wars, AI generated Star Wars that nobody wants to watch because it's boring, it's banal, and everybody has 7 fingers. And also, it looks like a total ripoff. It's like the same thing as last time, and the script is meaningless, right? They've done this already. AI is incapable of making actual art, and a lot of engineers and non-artists don't even understand what makes the films they watch good. This is the weird thing, right? It's very hard to get across. Because I am an engineer, I'm a programmer, but I write scripts and I paint and I make art. I mean, like the animate, design character. I do everything: the character design, wardrobe, animate their emotions. I don't always do it as good as some people, but I mean, I do the art and I also do the technical side of things, right? So, not to toot my own horn too hard, but I feel like I am at least slightly qualified to speak on all of that. And it's hard to communicate to people because a lot of people tend to specialize in tech, or they tend to specialize in art and creation, right? It's not always people that cross all those worlds. but it's hard to explain to people who only understand tech and the programming, and or even worse, if they only understand business, right? Those people, they have no respect for the work that goes into art and what makes good art worth watching, listening to, right? And yeah, anyways, and not only is it like not and there's an important point, right, that somebody made, like what was it, AI what's that quote? I want AI to do my laundry, right? I want AI to do my laundry so that I can do art, right? I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so I can do my laundry and dishes, right? I mean, this is just one of many quotes. This is very good. This is the perfect thing, right? What people this is a philosophical civilizational question. This is beyond even economic worker struggle against, bosses, or even the technicalities of what is possible in an engineering sense of what AI, what current generative AI is actually doing. And not everybody might agree with this, right? Because some people might be, husks of humans called executives, and they don't know what it's like to produce anything of value, and they don't really know what makes great art great. They wouldn't recognize some people live reduced versions of life called, just going from expensive party to banquet to golf course to multi-million-dollar a plate gala ball, and trying to win this weird game called, neo-feudal capitalism. And that's a sad life you live, right? Or there's people, but there's more to life than simply seeking maximum revenue on things, and creating art and becoming skilled at something, and communicating your experiences through art is one of the great joys of life that really makes life fulfilling. And it's terrible that many people are unable to engage in that because they are struggling to work very difficult, grueling jobs just to put food on their own tables, right? Certainly in outside of the wealthy first world, it's even worse, right? And so people should aspire to, want to explore their art and their artistic side. And ideally, we live in a world where people could just make art and wouldn't have to rely on selling their art for money, right, through a job, or through being paid through a salary at Disney, so that they can keep on eating food and having a roof and having healthcare and the basic medicines and stuff like this, right? We don't live in that world because of all the reasons that I've said, but it is a world to aspire to, which if AI, right, and machines and technology generally is used for the good, right, it can potentially build a world where there are robots that help with laundry and the dishes. I mean, they already exist, right? And this is the thing in China. They're like, number one, let's just see where is that? I hope I can find this. Sometimes I play this game and I lose. It's called Silver Stook Find My Bookmarks. I'll probably find it. There's a bookmark about the there's a jet flying around. Okay, maybe I don't have it. There's a China flying bike. You know that one? Oh, flying. There's a new flying car that they have. There's an AI generated car. No, where is that one? Yeah, there's these new flying cars, like actual flying cars. You can ride on lots of different ones, and then you can and you can pilot around. They actually, some AI. You actually need some AI to do urban flying vehicles, because of there's especially like in residential areas, because it can be really tricky, right, to manage these things. And they don't really they do have some that are actually working. Flying taxi, right? And so, and this is something that, having flying taxis and even autonomous vehicles and autonomous trains and autonomous buses, they do need some AI for that, right? And there's many other things they need AI for. There's another one. Let me see if I have that article. Oh, oops. Okay. Sorry. I'm gonna try to find one more AI thing. There's another AI. Oh yeah, here, the Chinese drone, the Valkyrie. Shoot. Sorry, my computer is slowing down a little bit. I need to upgrade my AI computer chips now. Yeah, where is that? Yeah, here it is. Okay. So there is an AI automated vertical farm, tallest unmanned veggie farm, where you have there's not even automatic breeding selection. So you have like AI will choose various strains of a cabbage, a lettuce, tomato, right, a pepper, right, and it will automatically select the best and choose which ones to interbreed in order to maximize the total farming capacity. It chooses like the temperature, light, pH levels, water levels, everything, and they have these automated farms, and that helps with food security. Obviously, with climate change, right? Climate change, global instability, this is a problem, and so the AI that is being used, AI is being deployed to assist with this ramping up by multiple times the amount of food that can be produced in a small area. What obviously there's many things, robotics, right? There's biology, and then but AI is being used for that. AI is being used for many things, right? And a lot of these things, these are actual productive uses of AI, right? It might take a good amount of processing power, but actually the reality is like the AI that you need for this is actually a lot less. Like the amount of energy, water, because I think water is running short, energy is running short. They're having huge outages in Texas and California, all across the world. Even Russia recently said there's because of crypto and AI data farms that are popping up, they have to really crack down on these because towns are having blackouts, right? I mean, obviously we know this happens in Texas, we know this happens in California. Areas are blacking out because energy and also water is being pushed to and privileged because of the parasitic capitalist system is being pushed towards the AI. But what is the AI doing with that power, right? Now, if the world was going to end in an hour or tomorrow, if we don't black out your town for 6 hours and give, Elon Musk's generative AI, if we don't give Sam Altman and Bill Gates's data farm your AI, the world will end. I mean, that's like a valid reason to give it the power, right? And maybe be in the dark for a bit, right? But that's not what the power is being given to these huge data farms in order to generate Facebook AI shrimp Jesus and really bad, crappy, weird porn for some rich guys to get off on. That what is it producing, right? To produce, LinkedIn profiles and fake responses for workers in offices that's not just inter-email work office. There are automated inter-work emails and just random pictures of like what would Luke Skywalker look with a dog face. That those alone take like the electricity of entire countries. So what good is that adding to the world, right? Arguably, all of those things are making the world a worse place. Do we need more? Do we need more shrimp Jesus Facebook pictures so that boomers can waste their time thinking that it's art, thinking that it's disgusting, Red Lobster nightmare crossed with really grody conservative Christianity, conservative distortions of Christianity? I feel like the actual Palestinian brown Jesus would be very upset at this white lobster Cthulhu Facebook slop, right? This is the kind of thing, right? Because remember, there are billions of accounts out there just churning this crap out, right? How much YouTube AI generated slime? Every time you have a YouTube AI generated video, which is many of them, it's and you click on it, it's like, what the heck am I even watching? This is like somebody else's video stolen and like remixed badly with seven-fingered protagonists. Every time somebody makes one of these, right? And there are many money grabbers out there who have no discernible talent except for, lying, cheating, and stealing art and putting it through ChatGPT and Sora and scraping it. And they're pumping out billions and billions of pictures and videos like all the time, every day. That is what the power is going to. That is making the world a worse place and running people out of the power that could have powered their homes and kept their hospitals running. People are dying because AI is taking power from hospitals, and so that hospital can't keep the CPAP machines, can't make the MRIs run, can't keep the people who are in the critical condition, can't keep their life support systems on. Not every time, because hospitals often have backup generators, but I mean sometimes you have enough power outages long enough, this is going to cause it's killing people. It's literally killing people. Not just when AI uses the "Where's my daddy" to blow up children in ISRAEL's GENOCIDAL war that the U.S. all parties support, by the way. And so anyway, let's get off that though. So that's why this strike is also important too, is because it's a fight for all of this, right? How are we going to use that AI? Are we going to use it to grow food, right? Are we going to use it to grow food more efficiently? Are we going to use it to help people? Are we going to use it with autonomous vehicles that could eventually help? I'm trying to find the automated flying car. Are we going to use it to speed up shipping and bring productive uses? I mean, there's certain uses of generative AI potentially, like when you do a phone tree. I mean, the phone tree, it could be a little smarter, right? And there is already AI used in telework, right? Or in frontline, answering questions for people who are inquiring about signing up for this healthcare provider, or I want to buy shoes from this company, right? So that's probably, we don't need necessarily individual secretaries to do all that work, right? And there is already like forms of the pre-ChatGPT forms of AI that do that, right? And the thing is, even the AI investor said, like, the generative AI is not really solving any new problems, and certainly not trillions of dollars worth of problems, right? And which is, again, that's separate from like more general AI in the sense of, this kind of AI, or AI in planes and stuff like that, AI in trains, AI that helps to there's AI that helps to cure cancer, cure asthma, cure diabetes, right? By looking at large quantities of data on these cancer and like trying to find certain patterns in the growth of cells, and certain what certain substances and chemicals will do to certain types of carcinogen, or certain types of melanoma or carcinoma, blah, etc. So like those are like, if you cure cancer with AI, that's like a valid use. If you use, like, let's say use 1,000 gigawatt hours of power, but you cure cancer, that's billions of people that lives could be extended and misery is relieved. I mean, that's a valid use, right? If you use 1,000 gigawatt hours of power and you make like a bad ripoff of Star Wars that's full of weird porn, that is not I mean, you could have just like drawn pictures in your notepad, but that's how AI has been used in a lot of situations, right? And this is also where the regulation is, the regulation is important, because there is a limited number of chips. There's a limited amount of power. There's a limited amount of chips. There's a limited amount of power, right? Even NVIDIA is making AI compliant chips that can be sold to China because the United States has all these sanctions. It's a whole other thing to talk about with geopolitics, but AI, there's all these rules that the U.S. companies like NVIDIA have exporting chips to China. But what they've done is they've designed chips specifically designed to get around U.S. sanctions so they can export them to China, because they need to make money selling their chips. And then there are shortages, but the thing is like the shortages. If there is a shortage of chips in the U.S., it should be asked like, what are you going to use those chips for? What are you gonna use those? Are you gonna use the chips to justify firing video game workers, and you have to hire them back later when you find out that the video game you make sucks? But then that quarter you take corporate profits. That's not even that. I mean, in the long term, that's not a good use of the AI. Are you using the AI to make just a bunch of shrimp Jesus? Are you using the AI to generate deep fakes of U.S. candidates? I mean, even the United States, which has very low standards and morals, has rules on AI generated deep fakes in this election, or they're trying to put rules on this election. Now, of course, the U.S. has no capacity to. It's all chaos. It's all oligarch capitalism all the time, plutocracy. So they don't really. I don't know what kind of headway they're going to make in these rules, but there is a lot of fear about using AI for these deepfakes. That's one of the things that there are rules. Rules. And one of the interesting rule in China is that AI cannot be anti-socialist. It cannot not anti-social. The AI doesn't have to have an emo brow and emo hair like Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man. But it's not anti-social. AI is banned, but you cannot be against socialism. You cannot have, by extent, you can't have pro-capitalist AI. That's an interesting rule, right? Because you could have a lot of data and posts auto-generated that says like giving Elon Musk all your money and giving the CEOs of these companies all your money so they can buy Congress and change the rules for themselves and cut their taxes, right, is the best thing ever, right? So that's one of many rules that they have. Not in the U.S. though. Anyway, they should think about that though. I mean, when the United States has like a functioning system of any kind, they should think about having some rules in that system, political and/or economic system that actually works for the mass majority of people. They should think about having some of those rules. They gotta have a country or something instead of just the giant, rusting aircraft carrier called America that makes bombs and death and destruction and money for rich people. So, but yeah, to get off the AI, come back to the acting thing though. What does this have to do with acting? So like, I got so many links. I got all my tabs open now. So again, to come back to this one, what is the impact in terms of creativity, in terms of art? If Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy, right, simply had Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen's young face overlaid over theirs, right, they would have never been able to develop their careers and be in all these other movies and acting and be known for the acting that they did to develop their own careers. It would simply be Patrick Stewart would have made more money, because then Patrick Stewart, right, would have had, his likeness could have been projected into the next, right? So like later on, when you had movies that didn't have Patrick Stewart, like and it was just only young Magneto and young Professor X, Patrick Stewart would have just made more money. He would have made if he had a deal, he would have been, Patrick Stewart, here's another, $300,000 for your likeness, right? X2, in X-Men, I think X-Men Apocalypse, right? In X-Men Apocalypse, there you don't have Ian McKellen and you don't have Patrick Stewart, right? You only have the young James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, and you have Michael Fassbender as Magneto, right? If the Hollywood's desired generative AI, the way they want to use it, process was in effect, there would not be a James McAvoy and there would not be a Michael Fassbender. It would be an unknown actor, maybe Michael Fassbender, maybe James McAvoy, but just be some unknown actor paid very little or nothing, right? According to Hollywood, they would have gotten $200 for their body performance or less, maybe $100, and that's it, right? I mean, that's not. I don't know if you know this, but that's not. That's not enough to pay 10% of the average American rent for 1 month. Okay, and that was for you for your entire career of acting. Will get $100. This is a joke. It's an insult, right? This is what Hollywood was offering to actors in the entertainment industry last year, and this is still what Hollywood still wants to. The entertainment business executives still want this. They're trying to salami slice it with the game strike. They're trying to salami slice it to say, So the physical motion is data. Your face, it's just your face, so it's not. You're not a real actor. It's not a full body. And then your voice acting, well, you're just the voice. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut what acting is into motion data, body data, face data, and voice data. Right? And say, well, each of these is just a bunch of data that we can throw into our generative AI and do whatever we want with it. It's basically what's happening. And this is why, again, this is circling back. This is why the SAG-AFTRA are striking, because they want clear protection for all of this, right? So what I'm trying to do is trying to like tease out exactly why this is a problem, yeah. So again, so if they had their way, there would simply be a professor. There would be Patrick Stewart, who's 70, 80 years old. He's not gonna be around forever. He would just, and then maybe his family, right? So what is this? So I mean, it's really just think about this for a little bit, right? Again, like the serious virus that came out in 2020, we don't know the long-term impacts, right? ChatGPT and the generative OpenAI, it's only been in operating for about a couple of years with its most modern iterations, right? Spicy autocomplete's been with us for decades, but the current generative AI they're trying to use at a high level, it's only been out for like 2 years, right? We don't know what the impact is going to be on generations of future actors, artists, creators, costume designers. I mean, all art, like a good chunk, arguably most of what makes humans human might be being lobotomized out of people's heads, being lobotomized out of the entire human civilization and accumulation of civilizations for the foreseeable eternity. If we make bad decisions now, like just to kind of re-emphasize and like reify what some of the actors are saying in this, which is that like these decisions we're making now will have long-term ramifications. Each one of these fights is really a pivotal fight. And so what we would, so again, if you have Patrick Stewart, collecting money. When Patrick Stewart dies, his family collects some money when they keep using young Patrick Stewart's face. They're already doing this, by the way. I forget, there are certain, I remember, was it James Earl Jones? Some of the older actors have already sold their likenesses on. I don't know if Bill Murray was offered it. James Earl Jones was offered it. Bruce Willis was offered it. I can't remember who accepted it, right? Some of them have rethought about it and they go, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that, or I take it back. They're trying to take it back. Because what's happening is that, right? So instead of a new young actor, right? James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, building their careers, becoming new actors, like building with other young actors around them, right? The side actors, as Colin Farrell said, without these like non-star actors, like the side actors, these are important actors. Without them, the world is not realistic, right? Without all of the other side X-Men, not just the leads, right? There's no chemistry, there's no character, they have nothing to build from, right? But those side actors, they often get paid like peanuts. They get paid so little. They're like at poverty line or lower. Sometimes they get paid nothing. Sometimes they get paid like literally nothing, like we learned from last year's SAG-AFTRA writers' strikes. They get paid like 27 cents, which is basically nothing, right? They get checks from Disney. They get checks from Disney and from Sony and from Paramount that say 3 cents for hundreds of hours of your work, right? So and there's a whole ecosystem of people, the writers rooms. They're trying to get rid of writers rooms, right? So how do you develop an entire industry, an entire practice, an entire art of acting, of writing, and and the careers that people have, so that they can build new art that people actually want to see. Again, people don't want to see Shrimp Jesus and weird Star Wars Mark Hamill with Star Wars Mark Hamill with Elon's face on it, because that's the kind of stuff that business bros produce. It sucks. That's why they can't sell it, because nobody wants to. When the rubber hits the road, like if Activision could produce a real good game without human artists, if Disney could produce a real good movie without human artists, just make your Avengers, make your Marvel, make your Star Wars, make your X-Men, right? Just make it. If your AI is so good, just make it then. They can't make it. They know this, because when they make it, when a bunch of rich dudes, because no artist wants to be part of these things, because it's like you're a traitor, right? Like when you have a bunch of rich dudes doing spicy autocomplete, even with billions and trillions of processors and a huge crunching power, when they crunch and they spit something out, it sucks, because generative AI is not doing art. It's just doing, again, pattern recognition. So that's where the rubber hits the road. I mean, again, if the rich and powerful could produce actual good movies, they would have already done it. If they could produce good games with no humans, they would have already done it. What they want to do is throw as few humans into the AI mix as possible. Say they're using AI so that their own investments in a wasted AI, wasted generative AI model, which is, again, different from, again, food producing, medicine curing, supply chain optimizing, traffic jam stopping, all the ports in Shenzhen and in China are automated. I mean, that's a good use of it, right? So that it's not, I mean, just again, so when I talk about generative, crap generative AI, which is where most of the US is putting all of its money into, right? The capitalist world is putting the money into that. Why are they putting into that? Because what they want to do is get rid of lots and lots of the actual useful workers doing actually interesting good work, like, again, all these writers and office workers, and they just have and then what they want to do, it's very similar. What they want to do also is very similar to what they did with the subprime mortgage crisis, right? Take a few actual good loans and mix. When they lent out no income, no jobs, no assets loans. Basically, you could have a waitress at Applebee's making $7.50 an hour get a loan for a $1.5 million McMansion in Florida somewhere, and obviously she would never be able to afford. And then before the loan goes bad and that mortgage and that loan is exposed for being unrepayable, they sell that off to a collateralized debt obligation at a regional bank, and then they repackage as a credit default swap and push into the shadow banking world, which is where these BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are existing in this eldritch hell under another world that governs all of capitalist reality, and then just make tons of money stealing it parasitically from people that actually produce it. But what they would do is they would take these, again, mortgages lent out sometimes even to dead people with a social security number, but they're no longer alive, right? They would make mortgages to people who couldn't afford to pay the house back, and all these other acts that this is fraudulent. It's not safe, right? And they would repackage these no income, no jobs, ninja loans. They call them ninja. There's other words for them, but ninja loans. These are like terrible toxic loans because they're gonna blow up. They're gonna explode, right? If you sell that off to somebody's pension fund, fireman, nurse, teacher, retirement package, right? They're gonna run out of money and they're gonna be screwed when it comes to time to retire. This is basically the strategy of the Western world, is to take workers and then screw them out of everything you possibly can and give it to the richest people who don't need any more money, and using banking shenanigans. And so what is, they take these no income, no jobs, no assets, toxic loans, 1 million of them, and package them in with like 100,000, mix 100,000, like, somebody who is, like a doctor, like two doctors who own a $300,000 house. Very probable that those two doctors will be able to pay back that. mortgage, right? And they would mix a family with $150,000 income loan on a $300,000 house, right? Like 1 million of those, or 100,000 of those, with 1 million toxic loans, right? And by mixing in the good in The Big Short, Anthony Bourdain uses old fish being cooked in a fish soup as an illustration for this process, right? By mixing 100,000 of the good quality loans, which they are, right, with 1 million of these horrible quality loans worth tons of money, you can say, oh, this is high grade package of loans that you could sell on to somebody's retirement fund, or to, the package that funds your water and electrical and sewer in your city, or like your infrastructure, your library or your schools, that you don't have now. You know why you don't have them? It's because this process. It's called, and then selling all of those repackaged toxic loans, but you mix a little bit of good with a lot of bad in, right? And then you sell it and you give it to the completely corrupt United States ratings agencies that rubber stamp, like Moody's and Standard, Moody's, and I can't remember all of them, but that they put a rubber stamp that says this is a high quality, very, very likely to be repaid back loan. And it's like, absolutely not. But they're all being bribed. And there's no system of anything other than crime and malice in the U.S. and the collective West by extension. So, so that's what the AI companies want to do, is have a few workers clean up tons of AI, like the mixing in toxic loans with some good loans. In the end, it's going to blow up, right? But what companies are trying to do now is fire lots of workers, right? Fire lots of artists and programmers or 3D workers and all kind of writers, right? Have one writer mixed in with 10 toxic AI generated bot nonsenses and go, hey, good writer, you fix all the problems that the AI. This is the thing too, which is AI is super inefficient. It was actually more efficient to generate, right? It's more efficient. Like I have many friends who work in programming and in writing, and they're like, it would be more efficient for me to program this corporation's JavaScript or C++, right? You know how CrowdStrike crashed last week and destroyed the entire Western global system, using all the hospitals, airports, grocery stores went blue screen to death and destroyed. That's a good bellwether for where mismanaged, plutocrat, money grubber led tech is going. It's going full CrowdStrike. You know what I'm saying? And again, in China, which got out of the United States, is so-called ecosystem. It's more like a kudzu-filled, rotten, toxic jungle. It's not really an ecosystem of Windows and even companies in China that had Windows computers. If they didn't use CrowdStrike. They selected their own kind of software for their own system based upon like its actual efficacy and what is it actually doing, right? And so the same, CrowdStrike also originated the Russiagate conspiracy nonsense, and of course also they work for the Democratic Party and originated that, and they drummed up North Korea hacking Sony and all these other stories that they just basically made up in order to sell more products to Western and including India, as they affiliated with West, India, Europe, Japan, to sell them more products based upon fears of some kind of systemic collapse that could happen. And CrowdStrike actually caused that systemic collapse. It's hilarious, but this is what generative AI is doing, and this kind of like bad, mismanaged, unregulated, right, profit-seeking, plutocrat-controlled corporate AI is doing, right? It is like CrowdStrike. It is mismanaging its own workforce, firing all of the workers, and then workers going, hey, when you use AI to do that programming, you're gonna have to have a programmer spend 3 times as long fixing it. Kind of like CrowdStrike. Oh, when you try to push that broken update with this, uncaught exception in your C++, if you push that now without testing, it was like 3 magnitudes of catastrophic failure, right? At CrowdStrike. But again, CrowdStrike is mismanaging its own employees. It's not teaching them what to do. It's doing things in all the wrong orders. CrowdStrike might have asked their employees to use ChatGPT, to use generative AI to generate code, and that might have been, I don't know, but that is a thing that is being done at companies. The coders are being asked to generate programming with generative AI and then fix it later. And the programmer is saying, like, this is taking me longer. If I just wrote it myself, it would be more efficient. But again, this is this self-fulfilling stupidity of the corporate, like Elon Musk, of the corporate capitalist class. Elon Musk, who thinks that COVID-19 can be solved with CPAP machines, broken sleep apnea machines, right? This is the kind of genius that the executives this is the kind of brilliance that they have, right? Which is basically the opposite of it. And they're using that for their own companies. And so in the reality is, like, in the nearer term, like in the near term, you can fire a bunch of workers and use, well, AI is here and it's gonna, we don't need you anymore. And some work doesn't need to be done by AI, and it can't. Some work doesn't need to be done by humans, and it's fine if it doesn't, right? Like, lots of robots are used to make cars. Lots of robots are used to manufacture goods, and that's great, because it's not necessary for people to have to, be on an assembly line breathing in asbestos and like steel shavings all day long. I mean, some of this is very dangerous work, right? And it's not, some people, if they really want to do like artisanal car design or something, maybe design something better than a Cybertruck, because that's a piece of garbage that rusts out in like 3 days and like it sets fires and cuts your fingers off, and it doesn't carry 1/10 what a Toyota Hilux can. It's a joke, and it's overpriced, right? But if you really want to do artisanal car design, you can. But it's not necessary for everyone's means of transportation to be produced by physical human hands. Whereas like things like art and storytelling and that kind of stuff, it's like it really is. It's like it's back to the I want AI and robots to do my laundry and dishes so I can do art. I don't want it to do art so I can do laundry and dishes, right? I mean, it's that. It would be great to have robots that can help with household chores. That'd be really, really helpful, especially for people who are disabled or elderly and that kind of thing, right? It is a helpful thing to have around. And of course, some people will be like, no, everybody has to do laundry and dishes. It's not important for people to do because something, these are discussions that can be had. They can't be had under a system of plutocracy where the rich control everything for their profit. They certainly won't be listened to if we decide something. So that's also why we have to support the workers in this case in exercising their power in this particular instance and all instances going forward. Now, there's much more that has to be done to stop this process of, again, intermingling, firing firing 3/4 of your art and programming teams, replacing that with generative AI, and then making broken products and then being forced later on to hire workers back. But for that quarter, remember, if you fire a bunch of programmers and say, well, AI is here, AI is replacing you, right? In that quarter, it looks like your company made a bunch of profit because you're not paying as many salaries. So it's just an excuse, right? It's subprime mortgageization. Temporary appearance of value was created, but all that you have done, right, is trick people into believing that there's still value there, when you just basically cut off like your leg and your arm, and you said, look, I lost weight, right? Look, I can do the same work. This is like a marathon runner going, look, I can do the same work with half the body, cut off your arm and your leg. I can still run a marathon. Now, when it comes time to run the marathon, you're not going nowhere, right? But in that moment, you're like, oh wow, this person can run. If you cut your body in half, you go, look, this person can run 2 marathons. Because look, he ran a marathon, and now now there's 2 of them, or something, right? This is the equivalent of these capitalist corporations are always doing this. They're always doing that, right? They did the same thing in the 80s. Now, not using AI, they said, oh, we're gonna trim the fat from General Electric, and they fired like half the staff, right? in Detroit or somewhere like that, and they'd say, look how efficient it is. We're making so much more money, right? Now you didn't pay the salaries of half the staff, the salaries, the retirements, the healthcare of half the staff, right? So oh my God, look at these millions of dollars we made for the last 3 months. Now, when the corporation breaks and it has to rehire everything because everything is malfunctioning because you don't have enough workers, the CEO is long gone, right? And this is why all these companies are collapsing. This is why all Western capitalist companies are being cannibalized. It's like the collapse or end phase of the system. All these companies keep going under. Why CrowdStrike is self-destructing, among others. Boeing blowing itself up, right? Boeing basically didn't pay out. I mean, anyway, I can dovetail off forever. I better stop on all of the examples of this. Boeing making its jets out of Mountain Dew cans and RC car motors, and basically not paying its staff and not having enough programmers. And it's actually part of it is India's not India's fault, but like senior programmers at Boeing and at CrowdStrike, right, were replaced by junior programmers in India. And these are in Washington that had been working on Boeing planes and Windows software for decades, right? And so senior programmers in the U.S. were replaced by like $6 an hour, $8 an hour junior programmers in India, and where the worker is from, that's not really what's at play here. Is that the workers that were brought on? It was like, oh, we're gonna get cheaper workers, but we're gonna get cheaper workers. But then we're also not going to train them. We're not going to give them, and we can treat them badly because where they're from, and it's great, we can make more money. And some of them were in India as well, so it's remote, right? And so this attitude of like, we'll treat them badly. We're not going to give them as much training. They can easily replace a 30-year-long Boeing programmer. And it's interchangeable. It's kind of like, it's like the game thing and the movie thing, right? Oh, we don't need a 20 years trained actor, 10 years trained action specialist. We'll just sub in some whatever. We'll sub in some AI. We'll throw it into our AI slot machine, and we'll slop out some shrimp Jesus in the shape of Mark Hamill, or in the shape of X-Men, whatever we need, right? And then finding out later, that actually doesn't work, right? Just like, CrowdStrike, having untrained junior employees and treating them worse because they're brown. Oh my gosh, our planes are all crashing. Oh my God, the entire global economic financial system exploded, or like the global system, global economy, the Western global economy, because of non-Windows, non-US economy. Russia did fine, China did fine, and other countries, Iran, nothing went bad, and they pulled ahead of the US even further than they already are because of CrowdStrike, right? Even India and other countries, ASEAN, Africa, Asia, Latin American countries are going, we better get out of American and Western Windows and these American CrowdStrike, these Western world's software, because this stuff is really broken, right? So I mean, but those are the longer term consequences that the short term, right? The CEO of CrowdStrike, the CEO of Game Company X, they're not thinking about what's going to happen next year, right? When everybody goes, I don't know if I want to buy any more of those games because they all came out all broken and bad. Or, why did that game take so long, right? I mean, it's because they had to rehire a bunch of workers that they fired because they thought that they could AI generate everything because they're co-invested in OpenAI, and they wanted to make trillions of dollars pretending like AI is worth 50 times more than it actually is. It's worth something, but it's not worth the multi-trillions of dollars they were pouring into it. Even Goldman Sachs itself, even the like BlackRock executives are like, this generative AI is not actually producing that much value. Like we got rid of some secretaries and some like tech support people, but it's not programming better code. It's not making better pictures, really. It's made a lot of AI. Facebook is worth less now because of generative AI. YouTube is worth less now because of generative AI. People don't want to use it because it's full of AI that nobody wants to watch and see, right? So the executives are figuring out, maybe even the very, 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 very not bright, not worth their billions of dollars of value capitalists are realizing, wow, this thing maybe has actually harmed our entire corporations, our quote unquote national security, our value of the actual products. And we ourselves brainwashed ourselves to drink the Kool-Aid that AI was going to actually revolutionize literally everything. And that might have been a mistake. The U.S. just said recently, even Gina Raimondo was like, we might have made a mistake by trying to sanction all of these the chips and pour everything into these kind of AI. Maybe we blew it, and that's part of why Nvidia is trying to sell the chips to China, because the U.S. usage of AI and its chips is exploding and dying, which it should, because hey, it's better than to keep trying to make more and more and more AI shrimp Jesus and burn all the electricity. I mean, because even the Pentagon is going, oh my God, we might actually need a few chips to actually do some. Not that I support the Pentagon, but I mean, we might need some missiles to work. We can't if even our missiles start shooting out shrimp Jesuses instead of bombs, right? If our aircraft carriers are piloted by are supposed to be piloting themselves, or having functional systems, but if our aircraft carriers are churning out YouTube 7-fingered AI generative AI slime, that could actually be a security threat. And so that's another factor. But this is the chaos. Now there should be like some kind of system for all human beings to come together, discuss together like what we should do, and then a system to implement that. U.S. don't have it, obviously. We humans should still be having this conversation while we work on, and the people in America and Europe and Canada, etc., work on taking their countries back so they can have a way to implement these rules and regulations on the uses of AI and it's and various kinds of AI, generative AI, right? Content generation, and what data can be taken when, right? And how people can have autonomy, control. Because one of the things is control and autonomy over your performances, over your likenesses, over your voice acting, over your physical motions, right? Over that, right? And it's very similar actually to taking the likeness of Joe Biden and deep faking videos about him, or taking Kamala Harris's likeness or Donald Trump's likeness and deep faking videos of, I don't know, Kamala Harris doing some horrible incriminating act, which not that other people like that need more incriminating acts. They haven't done a lot of them. But you're doing something like that would be, having Kamala Harris, like, I don't know, drawing swastikas all over something, or having Kamala Harris do something extremely that would be extremely embarrassing and bad for her election wise, or having Donald Trump, Donald Trump sex tape something, right? Just something that would be fraudulent. I mean, not that I care about either of those two candidates particularly, but I mean, they themselves, and and just generally, people there should be rules about what kind of content can be produced. Another thing I heard come up was that, like, if the without these regulations that SAG-AFTRA, without these rules that SAG-AFTRA and this language they want in their contracts with the game companies, right? Without this language, a game company could take your likeness, your face, your body, your motions, right, etc., and use you in a game that you are not morally you are not morally all right with being in that, right? I mean, just in a porn, right? They could take your likeness and put it into a game that makes the Nazis out to be good, or something, something that you don't agree with. They could take your likeness and put you in a game, with, I don't know, J.K. Rowling, or with some, with Tucker Carlson, or I don't know, somebody, Ron DeSantis' funded game, and you're like, I don't want to be in this far right wingers product and be associated with Donald Trump. Like, Donald Trump made a game, and your likeness, let's say you're like, you're like a black trans woman actress, and you're like, or you're what's her name? The Acolyte. What's the Acolyte main character's name? let's say you're Amanda, if you're like Amanda Stenberg, and then you're like, I support, or you're Nicola Coughlin, you're like, I support, freeing Palestine, and I support Amanda Stenberg is also Black and Indigenous, and you're like, I want I want racial equality, and I want economic equality, and then I don't support Ron DeSantis and his far right racist policies, and then you get your likeness inserted into a product, right, that's sponsored by a right winger like this, or somebody you morally, politically don't want to be associated with. That's a possible outcome if the game workers, right, actors, etc., don't get this this in writing, and they don't get their stipulations met, right, which is that you could appear in anything and without your consent, and you'd be like, your likeness could be in support of somebody you absolutely disagree with. Let's say you disagree with bombing people in Palestine, right, and your likeness, you get your likeness, right, I don't know, Nicola Coughlin gets put in the likeness of a pilot that's dropping bombs on children, right? Like, you have, under the current situation, you can't even find out when that is. You can't even find out when a movie or game company is using your likeness, right? So you could discover, like, on the internet or somewhere else, so social media, that it's gone viral that you, right, are you, Nicola Coughlin, who is for, let's stop GENOCIDE. Oh, why are you in this movie, right? Why are you in Captain America, the new Captain America movie, which is, has pro-ISRAEL characteristics all over it, right? You're like, I thought you were a boycott. Why are you showing up? And then you'd have to backtrack and be like, well, I didn't agree to that. The company's just stuck my face in there. I mean, it's right. So you see where this causes a huge societal, ethical. This is one of many problems that the generative AI is causing. The deep fakes. I mean, it's basically like it's the rule basically leaves it open ended. So the equivalent of deepfakes of any actor anywhere could be placed at any time by these companies, given their current language. They said if there was protection for voice, again they're trying to splinter it out into they're trying to basically like fracture it out into voice, face, body, and say these are all data. But then you could remerge them back together and be like, well, I mean. They're just trying to do any kind of weasel work they can. The corporations are greedy corporations to stop actors from controlling their performances, their data, their creation, right? Their likeness. And under the current situation, any deep fake could be made basically at any time, and you wouldn't even know it, right? And so that's like, I mean, it's actually in that sense like. The fight over whether you can deepfake Kamala Harris sex tapes, right? Kamala Harris sex tapes with like Barack Obama or something just to cause controversies, right? Or just something, right? That fight over that is directly related to this fight as well, right? Because they both involve like using your appearance in a way that you did not consent and agree to, right? Among other things, the data scraping, like what will my performances be added to a data scraping? Like, it's kind of like opting out of Grok, like I said on Twitter, right? Opting out of Facebook has its own generative AI data scraping. You have to hunt it down and intentionally opt out of it. So what they're trying to do is basically, and this is what it is. It's a race. It's a race against. It's a total race against. Before everything gets legalized, where they pass a law that says you can't automatically opt in. You can't automatically opt all users on your platforms into getting their data scraped, right? They're trying to scrape as much as possible right now, basically. Because it's obvious, like over probably the medium term, because I mean, advanced countries already have these rules, right? Like I said, China already has some much stricter rules there, And if these come to the U.S. and to the Western countries, they want to get as much data as they possibly can before that, right? And so you gotta. It's anyway. So long story short, so it is a fight. It's a struggle. It's being fought out in it's being fought out in discussions and what people think as people talk about this, like just in society generally. It's being fought out in the labor struggle, right? And it really does matter. And I got to finish out, so envision a world where there are no future actors with their ecosystems. There's no future writers. This is one thing, right? We're talking about the writers' room. Is like, I learned how to write in a writer's room. I learned how to do this complicated process called writing for TV, coordinating with actors, with the studios through writers' rooms. Hollywood and what the greedy executives want is to get rid of all writers' rooms. That would, over time, in the beginning, again, in the short term, it seems like you're making more money because you pay one writer instead of 10. In the longer term, you destroy the entire ecosystem, the entire industry, the entire community, the entire the culture of producing shows and movies that people actually like, which takes a culture to produce that, right? People ask, like, why are there less good movies coming out? There's not as many. One reason is because actors and writers had to strike to get their basic needs met, which they shouldn't have had to do. But, I mean, they don't want to go on strike, but the rich, horrible executives at the top, billionaires, and etc., shareholders, they all want to screw over them as hard as they possibly can, forcing them into striking. And so one reason why there's less shows out is because, well, there's less production happening because that's what had to happen for people to have their needs met and to get some barely fair deal of some kind, right? Another thing is that over time, it's civilization generally, it's much deeper than just acting, right? Countless schools have been pushed to let students use ChatGPT to complete math, reading, science assignments. Over time, and in the U.S. and in the West, certainly this has been happening. Very strict rules in that. I bring up China just because it's one place I know these things are happening. Very strict rules in that. You cannot use generative AI to complete your math, your reading, your homework assignments, because the human process of learning how to do reading and math and science and learning about history, this cannot be done by a computer for you. I mean, it should be obvious, right? This is like having PE class where you have a robot, it's like having Wall-E run your 2 miles for you during PE class and saying you're healthy, right? This is the equivalent of having, this is what's happening in classrooms, not all classrooms, but teachers are even being encouraged, even against their own best wisdom, to have their kids use ChatGPT, right? Because of all the reasons. Because they don't care about the future. They care about profits now, like subprime mortgages, right? Like firing all of your best Boeing plane makers, right? They don't care about the future. They care about right now. What does it look like, right? And so, but yeah, what I mean, on top of the horrible damage, the immune brain damage, organ total body damage you get from COVID, which kids are getting again and again and again and again and again. You have, and then they're also, if you just use AI to do all of your times tables, right? Just use generative AI to generate your or I'm not gonna check to see, if you're actually writing the essay or you're just chat GPTing it, right? And teachers who are already themselves stressed for time, they're like, I don't even know what to do. I don't have time to go and figure out whether this was AI generated or not. I mean, that's a whole extra layer of work you got to do as a teacher, and not having like clear and assistance in enforcing these rules and having pressure to use more AI in educational settings. Anyway, in the long term, right, you're not gonna have a society with educated people capable of keeping the planes flying, keeping the cars and the trains and the roads built and everything functioning, right? People need to know at least basic math even to do, when you have CrowdStrike outages, CrowdStrike events are going to happen more often because you don't have enough people trained and qualified and not being paid enough. But part of it is they're not getting the educations that they need. So why they got to import Indians? Why are they using India? Why are they using immigrants, right? The West, the U.S., all Western countries talk about, where all these immigrants are coming in. Well, I mean, other countries are places where they still have some education systems. That's why you got to import Chinese to do all of your science and tech and your AI invention, and your NASA satellites are all put in orbit. You can't even get your own astronauts off of a state. They're stranded indefinitely That was what I just heard. It's horrible. The United States has stranded indefinitely its astronauts because that is a knock-on impact of failing to have quality education in your schools. And another impact is by not having a education system in the future, you're going to have these knock-on impacts of not enough skilled, educated workers. If you destroy the writers' rooms, if you destroy the profession of acting and the culture of acting and theater and costume and wardrobe and all of that process that goes into making good actual entertainment people want to watch, right? In the future, not right now, but in the future, you will have a lack of quality entertainment products that people want to watch. And then what's going to happen, right? You can't instantly create that culture. It's not overnight that happens, right? What's going to happen is what's happening now, which is called people are watching things that are not from the U.S. and from the West, which is, in one sense, that's great, right? In a global equality sense, it's great. People are like diversifying out. In another sense, it's kind of like not good for people who would like to produce art and stuff, you know, wherever they are. It's not great for people who are fans of your shows. But another thought that Western capitalists are having is, I don't care if Disney, I don't care if X-Men I don't care if Star Wars and X-Men and Avengers really sucks in 2 years, and it's a terrible movies, because I like subprime. I don't care. I'm here to liquidate and make money, destroying all of the brands and the names and the beloved things, because I don't care about them. I just want to make tons of money, right? I'm here to destroy X-Men and make money, taking some extra profit now to make a terrible movie, right? It's kind of like, I'm going to squeeze out some shrimp Jesuses and destroy the environment and the water and desertify half of the United States, right? I don't care about, yeah, this is going to have terrible knock-on effects for centuries. I want to make some shrimp Jesus cash right now, right? I mean, and this is, you know, anyway. So, but yeah, in the long term, I think that we're not gonna, you will not have future actors getting their careers built up. You're not gonna have future writers. You're not gonna have, and then there's not gonna be somebody to be Michael Fassbender in Prometheus and then Covenant. Or you won't have an ecosystem to have future actors in that. I don't know what you're gonna have, but you're not gonna have that. I don't know what is gonna come out of that. You're gonna have weird AI generated slop. You're gonna have Patrick Stewart doing the same performance forever. Do we want to in 2050 want to still be watching 50-year-old Patrick Stewart forever? Is that what? Oh, would Patrick Stewart with a tiger skin on his face performing? Here is Tiger Professor X, because that's the level of creativity that business executives have, who will be the only people that will be running these kind of companies, right? Like the Modern Warfare and the Fortnite skins. Oh, well, here's a new skin. It's a 7-fingered shrimp Jesus that you can shoot. You can play Zarya with like 25 fingers and 8 boobs, because that's the level of creativity that Elon Musk and people kind of have, right? Imagine cybertruckification of all movies and all games. And I'm not mean they all look like Cybertrucks. I mean, they're as badly designed as Cybertrucks, because there's no actual creative skilled people to write scripts, right? Imagine all entertainment Elon Muskified. That is the future if we AI generate everything, or worse, there could just be none, or there could just be it's all like Donald Trump face. It's all billionaire Bob Iger face, deep faked over Luke Skywalker forever, right? These creepy old musty old rich white guys putting their face on beloved franchise products, and there's no interesting new stories. The stories are the same old stale stories forever, but this is where it starts to break, because people don't want to watch old stories. People want to relate to the characters they're watching, which is why there's the split. That's why Acolyte is really Acolyte Acolyte, there's a real split, like amongst like Western and more whiter and more male audiences. They don't really like it, but there's actually been a lot of people that really were into the show. Bridgerton, right, is another show where people are like, there's a big split. Like it's it's a very diverse show with like lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, set in a period of 1800s Britain. And some people are really upset about that. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, but the show is more relatable than other kind of period pieces. And it has more diverse cast, which is what people, a lot more people want to see. Even in the US and in Europe, there's more diversity. Like, that's what happens when you have lots of people, when you blow up countries and you bring colonialism and suffering to the rest of the world. People move, and now they've moved. And you keep bringing them in, and they get mad at that they're there. And now they don't want to watch the same old garbage, right? And, they don't want to watch only shows with white dudes as the leading male of a particular kind, right? And those shows that are more diverse are more popular, and that's part of the knock-on impact. And you can't, if you just data scrape the past to generate the future, right? You're again, garbage in, garbage out. If you scrape, if you scrape Avengers and you generate the next generation, a lot of people are not going to want to watch that kind of stuff, because the kind of stories, the kind of faces, I mean, even if you could do it, the kind of stories, the kind of characters, the current events and the new things that are happening now that are from real lived human perspectives, right? Like being black in Britain, which is, being like Lady Parts is another show that a lot of people should watch. Being a Muslim, gay, Arab woman in Britain in a punk band, right, is not a perspective that we've seen, and that's why this show is worth watching, because it's something that we haven't seen before. People don't want to see the same show again and again and again and again. I mean, some people like watching the same show, but I mean, people don't literally want to watch the same story, literally the same story, again and 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 again forever. This is why they need new content, even in their modern warfare, which is not so much about, it's not really about it's more about the gameplay, but even there, you need the new content. Where is the new content going to come from? The new content has to come from human experiences had in the world that is evolving and changing in real time, that they can then create in and produce through their art, through their writing, through their acting, through their motion, through their painting, through their music, right? Through their direction, and the marriage of all of these different skills and perspectives together into a film or a show or a game. That's what produces the things that people actually want to consume and to interact with, right? And you can't get that by scraping the past and then guessing what was the, what of billions of different movies, what is the next most probable line? That's not how movies are written. That's how ChatGPT writes movies. Oh, based upon all the actions Mark Hamill has ever made, what is Luke Skywalker's next probable action? Will he cry? Will he laugh? Will he jump up and say, "The Force be with you"? I mean, that is not how Star Wars was created. George Lucas didn't put a AI scraping. George Lucas didn't rifle through all of, and Mark Hamill, they didn't go through, right, all of 2001: A Space Odyssey and the last action movie and go, okay, what is the most probable next action for the Millennium Falcon? That's not how this works. But that's how AI, again, you see what I'm saying? It is impossible. For generative AI to actually, except if you have some human come in and put his hand up the AI's butt, which is usually what they would do, and like edit the AI's output to make it seem like it's actually saying something useful or doing something useful. Generative AI is not capable of doing that. It is spicy autocomplete. And that's it. It's a pattern recognition software. It does not, and it cannot, except if people dumb themselves down, right? Like in the Jaron Lanier sense, to make them think that the AI is getting smarter. Can it ever produce anything actually, that is not necessarily new, but because you could rehash something and you could have a 7-fingered dog. I guess that's technically new, but I mean that's like slapping a bunch of pictures together. That's not really producing anything useful. If you want to actually produce something new that is interesting and people would like to watch and consume, it cannot be done. It needs the human input. And salami slicing and going, well, we'll have half human input and half AI. We'll have 10% input. Like it's like we'll have 50% subprime loans, unpayable criminal fraud, and then 50% payback loans, right? We'll have like 30% building and 70% sawdust. Like this is one thing Americans will do sometimes. Capitalists will put low quality materials. We'll have like 60% high quality metal for this Boeing plane, and then 40% rust, right? I mean, that works until a point. I mean, it doesn't really work, but I mean, it kind of work, and then the planes break. Oh, we'll have low quality programming for CrowdStrike. We'll have like 90. Well, how about 60% AI generated CrowdStrike code, and then 40% actual good code? Okay, how about 90% AI generated? How about we just, you see, like, so there's not exactly a point where the AI is shown to not be working, but at a certain point you go, wow, this product is really crap. Why is it so shit? Right? When you put enough AI into a product that it becomes recognizable that it's shit, that is when the breaking point. The goal of corporations is to try to make that breaking point to trick people as long as possible, right? And so, and that's why I'm talking about this at length, because it's not as simple as again, the confusion of fish souping, of blending in the crap, right? It's in the drug, because, you know, in the Western capitalists, they all come off of narco trafficking, opium wars, and Afghan opium dumped into all kind of bodies around the global south and into their own populations, right? Fentanyl trafficking into their own children in the United States, and then blaming China. The when you it's like cutting the drug with baby formula. Like, you cut the cocaine with some other chalk or some other substance. You cut the, you know, you add cheap non-drug to the drug, and it's not good for someone's health. It's BS, but you can sell, you know, if you add some baby formula, some chalk, or some powder to, you know, 50-50 into your, you know, if you 50-50 that into your other drug. If you put fentanyl, which is hundreds of times stronger than the other drugs, the other opioids, other opiums, if you cut or lace fentanyl into a drug, you can put almost none of the other thing, and you can magnify the power, and you can make a lot more money selling that other drug. But it's easy to overdose on fentanyl. So anyway, and you know, and the number one trafficker is actually a white lady from California, shipping that stuff. She was the number one trafficker in California. It was not some evil narco Mexican person or some evil Chinese trying to destroy America. Anyway, long story short, so cutting the products, art, planes, computer security software like CrowdStrike with broken AI generated material is a huge rampant problem that is being viewed as a boon to the valuation of these companies, but it's actually not. And I am like so off the deep end, I gotta stop. I could go off on this forever. Support for all of the video game workers, SAG-AFTRA workers. Please support them. Watch this video. Listen to them. They're calling. I don't know if they're calling for a boycott at the moment, but they are striking against many companies, including Disney, Activision, EA, and I can't remember the full list. But do look at what they're talking about, and I do hope that the outcome of this will not only be a positive outcome for the game workers who and the SAG-AFTRA workers on the video games products, but also for civilization and society as a whole. It's a good time to bring up these topics which need to be talked about, because AI has been kind of falling off of the radar for a bit. Because these things are gonna impact everything beyond the economic, beyond just the political of the moment. It's gonna have I think a lot of wide-ranging impacts depending on what directions people take now. Whether the stitch in time now will save 9 later, it's an important topic for people to think about. And that is all that we have for now. Thank you so much for watching the stream. If you like this video, consider liking it with a thumbs up, subscribing. Obviously, you can directly support us through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook for a one-time donation. You can also help us out at patreon.com/Neofeud, where you can support us in an ongoing fashion and get access to behind-the-scenes updates on Neo. As I said, I am a game maker. Now I'm an independent, cooperative game maker at the Silverspook Cooperative and Silverspook Games, and so I'm not on strike. I don't work for any of those companies, and I still need to finish Neofeud 2 as soon as possible. I'm very close to being done. I was working on. I finished I think I finished like 3 scenes this week. Not super long scenes, but the 3 separate scenes. So I am very, very close to being done. With the I still have to add. I have to get voice acting and that kind of stuff, but not at this moment. So hopefully the strike will be done by then. But of course, also you can get access to behind the scenes of what we're doing at the Silver Spoon Cooperative in terms of like land back and restoring the ecology and the land. Speaking of environmental and decolonial issues, which I also talk about at length on other streams and in other contexts. But if you want to help us out, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/Neofeud in that way. If you do play video games, which you might if you follow this stream, you can also get Neofeud, which is on sale right now. Neofeud is a cyberpunk retro point-and-click adventure game where a cyber social worker, a ex-con, a delinquent robot, and a ex-trillionaire princess try to take down a global plutocracy, not unlike the AAA game corporation CEOs. Nasty people like that. And it is a game called Neofeud. There are hippie Terminators. And there are hippie Terminators. There are Bruce Willis wannabe cyborg social workers and unplugged Matrix agents and hack cigarettes and Sega Genesis is in the side of people's energy boxes and all kind of other fun like this one and all kind of other it's kind of Disco Elysium meets Hitchhiker's Guide times Neuromancer / Blade Runner. If that makes any sense, then you probably are the target market for this. You can get Neofeud on Steam here. If you have a second to leave, even a very short review is also greatly appreciated because it helps the game to get discovered in the Steam algorithm. You can also get Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux, and it's also on sale there. Maximum revenue comes to us when you grab it on itch. You can also get other games like Decolonators and Pigeon with Gun and a Digistar, and there's a Silver Spoon bundle to get a whole bunch of games. And of course, Holly, my partner, wrote this book called Woman. Holly was raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and this is a work of fiction of Mary's experiences in the Bible from Mary's perspective, and it critiques that kind of culture. And it is free, or you can donate some money when you pick it up. You can also follow at Silver Spoon Games at Octanon.social, at Silver Spoon Games, at Mastodon.social, and on Twitter at Silver Spoon Guy. Don't forget to opt out of the Grok generative AI data scraping nonsense, so Elon Musk can't produce gross shrimp Jesuses and deep fake yourself into some weird porn sex tape of you and whatever else weird stuff he wants to do. Maybe Elon might give your Twitter pictures of yourself to JD Vance to put dolphins on your head and do weird porn with that, because that's apparently what Donald Trump's running mate wants to do, is have sex with couches and dolphins, and that's weird. Well, I mean, it's yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways, you can follow Silver Spoon Games minus the E in silver. Terminus is the Terminus Cyberstar, which is a low poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games like Deus Ex and System Shock 2 that I'm the content director and the lead writer of. Also, of course, you can follow Holly at the tech. Holly at Allergic to Blue. Holly married to myself. Landback in Free Hawaii. I'm also native Hawaiian. Tech and etc. for KNX. Listening to music almost always. Sapphic Queer Mama too. And of course, Mask. Because hey, guess what? We're still in. The president of the United States is down. In part, his brain has been gone for a while, and now he's completely out of commission because of getting these horrible things that's still going around. You might have heard about it, and I can't even say it on this channel. I think because YouTube is messed up. Anyways, don't forget to follow Holly. Thanks to all these people on this list for your ongoing support. Massively appreciate. Without your support, it's difficult for us to keep doing this work. So thank you so much to all of our Patreon patrons. And don't forget, grab Neofeud while it's still on sale and support SAG-AFTRA. Keep your SAG-AFTRA cards polished. Don't forget to support your video game workers everywhere. And thanks a lot for listening and watching.